Okay. After well over a month of waiting, here is your Sharptooth video. Little disclaimer here, as per usual. Generally speaking, my videos are made with minimal and surface level research because generally I know quite a bit about biology. Be aware of that going in. As for our background speed paints this time, instead of doing full pieces, this will just kind of be a conglomerate of a bunch of studies I've been doing lately. Which means that this time there is a chance that there will be a fair amount of flashing lights, so if you're a bit sensitive to that, maybe sit this video out. And if you are in fact new, here's a little introduction for you so you're not lost. My name is Warren, or Ren if you'd like, and one of the video styles that I occasionally do on my channel is these redesigns. The only ones I've done so far in full have been Rudy from Ice Age 3, and the Sniffer from Minecraft. Rudy actually got 2 videos, technically. I do also post OC content and various fandom content, but that's not what you're here for. I've stalled long enough, let's get into it. Starting with his posture. Of course, for the time, he was a perfectly accurate T-Rex and was a very good depiction, but more modernly, we now know that T-Rex stood more parallel to the ground, and because he sits so upright in his normal position, his torso looks very smushed, and it tends to give him a bit of a hunchback. Now, onto the issue of size. Some of you may think what I'm about to say is the Sharptooth is oversized, but there was a very recently found specimen of Rex, now called Goliath, who, based on extrapolation from the evidence we have, which is just the femur, would be a meter taller than Sue, who is our largest specimen, I believe. Height-wise, anyways, Scotty's a little longer by like 2 feet. But, limited evidence, just the femur, so it could be bigger or smaller, but for our purposes, bigger. But that's about all I can say about him size-wise. So we're gonna cover the protuberances next. Arms, legs, tail, all that jazz. Oddly enough, his arms are actually a bit too long. And to, nobody's shock, his wrists are pronated, which basically just means that his palms face backwards to his knees instead of inwards. Correct for the time, but we're gonna have to flip those bad boys in. Continuing on with the hands, his first finger needs to be a bit shorter, and actually the hands need to be smaller. Also, the claws should be more curved. They're a little too straight for my liking. And again, the second claw should be longer because the second finger is longer. Alright, with his arms covered, let's move on to his legs. I have a bit more to say here. For one, the tibia and fibula need to be longer, and the femur should be a bit shorter. The metatarsals are fine, but the reduced fourth toe should definitely be further down. It's at the ankle joint rather than down towards the end of the metatarsals like it should be, and this is actually way more obvious when it goes plantigrade. Which is how animals like humans and bears walk, with all of their, toe bones on the ground. Foot bones, not toe bones. And Rex definitely would not have been able to walk like this. He'd probably break something. And just from a sort of nitpicky visual standpoint, the metatarsals and such in the bottom parts of the leg are all too thick, in my opinion. Like, the Sharptooth's legs look to have all the same thickness the whole way down, when in the real animal and in, actual birds today, there's a noticeable difference between, like, how thick the thigh is and how thick the calf is. Now, for his tail, Sharptooth's tail is really long in some shots and shorter than it should be in others. It's also quite, thick looking. Like the rest of him, we'll slim it down a bit, especially near the tip, because in some of these shots, it kind of just looks like a sausage. One pro of this design, I suppose you could say, is that it does actually have lips. And yeah, if you didn't see my last video, it's been pretty much confirmed that Tyrannosaurs at the least had lips. Editing Warren here, my last video of this nature. Because this design already has lips, there's no real major change here aside from perhaps making him less wrinkly as a whole. But that's enough about his lips. In regards to the rest of his head, it's very basal looking, very almost Carnosaur-like to me. And this was a deliberate choice. It makes sense from a shape language standpoint. The curve of the top of the nasal curving, sort of up and out as opposed to down and smooth, makes the animal look almost more threatening. It reminds me a lot of the Velociraptor designs from the original Jurassic Park, how they have very Allosaur-like heads. as opposed to the actual evidence of Velociraptor we had at the time, where it had a very, perhaps to some, meek-looking downward curve to the snout. The upward curve may have appeared more threatening to people. But the best way to fix this is to just really extend the snout and give it that real proper curve. Perhaps give the little keratinous cresticles that the Tyrannosaurus has over its eyes a bit more oomph, a bit more pronunciation there, as opposed to the boxiness and profile of the snout. Speaking of the area, above the eyes, why don't we talk about his eyes? As you can tell, I am phenomenal at segues. The eyes are properly placed on his head, facing forwards. As most of us know, Rexes had binocular vision, though they are a bit large, so I'd perhaps shrink those down a bit. I get it's a cartoon, but again, real big eyeballs on this fella. The one that immediately comes to my mind is the Asian glossy starling, which have sort of greenish feathers and these rather striking red eyes. His external little ears that he has would probably not be there, so we could just leave a small ear hole in its stead. Same can be said for the nostrils, although they are very far apart as well, because of how boxy the head is. So again, that fixes that. Cause to effect, how fun. Anyways, bringing us back to the mouth. Though I did praise the lips, the teeth leave a bit to be desired. They extend really far back into the mouth for a Tyrannosaur. Usually their teeth only take up about the first 2/3 of the jaws, but the Sharptooths extend all the way to the back of the mouth like a mammal. Actually, the mammalian aspects and, the wrinkliness is probably my main criticism of The Land Before Time. I do get it is kind of a major aspect of Dawn's style, but it does make them look a lot more mammalian than reptilian in my mind. And yes, I do know that animals like monitor lizards and the like are also sort of wrinkly in that fashion, but those are lizards, and thus far more distant relatives. But that's pretty much all the changes he needs. The colors are fine. The sort of counter-shaded appearance to him makes sense. It follows with the rest of the designs in the movie. But here is my final redesign. Minor changes, I'd say, all around. Considering this Rex was designed in the 80s, he's actually pretty solid. That's about all I have for today. Bye!